Mexicans now in the United States are viewed as a race and are also viewed as illegal. As a historian, I know that the stereotype of what being Mexican is has changed over time. Originally, we see the idea that Mexicans steal jobs from Americans start in the Great Depression. When jobs were disappearing, Americans needed jobs. They forgot that they had been recruiting Mexicans to come to the United States to work in U.S. fields and started accusing them of taking their jobs and using their public coffers. Now, as soon as the Depression ends and the U.S. enters the Second World War, they start needing laborers again. And they start a bilateral agreement with Mexico called the Bracero Program, by which Mexican workers can come to the United States, work here legally for short periods of time, and then return to Mexico. In other words, as soon as the Depression ends, the U.S. requires more laborers, and they immediately go back to asking Mexicans to come to the United States. Part of what I want to emphasize is that this whole rhetoric that has occurred time and time again, and that now describes Mexicans as bad hombres and not much more, has helped to dilute, erases the humanity of migrants. While doing oral history interviews, I got to unearth and hear the stories of hundreds of Mexican migrants and their families. Stories about their love lives, stories about the hardships of crossing the border, stories that presented their vulnerabilities, their contradictions, stories that were much more complex and that have been erased by the narrative that exists around Mexican migrants.